evening, Yankee fans. Spring has arrived, and I'm joined by my co-host from the Pinstripe Chronicles, my brother from another mother, the Rabinho, the man himself. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm doing good. Baseball's back. We got a couple of Yankee games in the books. It feels good for baseball to be played, spring training or not. Try to get the stench of last October off of us because it's a new season, and I'm excited, man. Yankees baseball is finally here, and I cannot be happier.
Yes, I've enjoyed the first two games of spring. 1-1. Some interesting kind of prospects to keep an eye on. That's what it's all about in spring, anyway. Not too worried about the results from Rodon, etc. But it gives you a good idea of where people are. So we're going to break down spring because Rob is our prospect guy of the channel. So I'm looking forward to really talking shop with some of our prospects, especially one future outfielder, possible future star, Spencer Jones. And we're going to really break down Spencer Jones because I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm quite excited to talk about him because he's getting some real major exit velo going on with his swing. So, he had a massive fly ball that went slightly foul in his first at bat, and then his second at bat, goodbye. So that was exciting. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about something that me and Rob have very much in common, and I think most of America does. The Beards are back in town. They're back in style in the Bronx, and I'm looking forward to talking some of that too. Because this is a big deal, man. It's a big deal. There's going to be some that are not going to like it. And this is actually one of the few things, because I'm obviously very much like an old man on the lawn, get off my lawn kind of character, especially with baseball. But in this, I think it's a no-brainer. And I think everyone around the league would agree this was a no-brainer that just had to change. Do you know what I'm saying? The mustache is very much a 70s, 80s thing. There's nothing wrong with a well-trimmed beard. So we're going to talk about that too. But we do have a chat going on here, so let's say hello to the chat. We got Jonathan, always nice and early. Wherever the show, Jonathan is there. We got Jacob. Donald, my brother. Jacob, my brother. Let's go. 01. Good evening, 01. We got Donnie Clark. Salute to Donnie Clark. How are you? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. What's Donnie Clark got to say here? I said since day one, years ago, that Spencer Jones is an untouchable. I agree. I've always actually had Spencer Jones as an untouchable prospect. I'm very excited about him. We just need him to cut down the strikeouts, and so far, so good. So, Rob, let's start with, your very first thoughts on the first two games so far. Anything that's kind of caught your eye?
So far, we've gotten our first looks at the third base race, or battle, I should say. Peraza looked pretty good in that first game, had himself a base hit, drew a walk. Defense was fine, and Cabrera, even though he went over at the plate today, defensively made some really nice plays. He bobbled one, but then recovered quickly to turn two, and then made a beautiful play like an inning or two later. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do with third. I believe it should be between those two. We know they're going to give DJ a look, but so far that's kind of the storyline that I'm watching the most. I want to see obviously what Dominguez does in left and how he takes the left field and all that, but we know pretty much where everyone's going to be playing. It's just figuring out third base and backup catcher, which so far we haven't really gotten a great look. Escar looked okay, and then Ben Rice did not have a good day out there this afternoon. So, but third base is really the thing that I'm keeping my eye on. It's pretty apparent we're going to go in-house, and I liked what I saw from Peraza, and I liked what I saw defensively from Cabrera. So I think so far those two definitely have the leg up, but obviously we're 2 games in, so very long time to go in this spring battle. But that's the main storyline for me. And some of these pitchers that we saw yesterday, even Will Warren looked really good. That changeup of his was working well. So hopefully he can erase what was an awful, awful season last year and just kind of get back to the prospect that we thought he was going to be.
Yeah, let's start with, let's say, 3 positives from spring so far, and 3 negatives. I know it's only 2 games, but the first 3 guys that are positives, 3 negatives. I'm going to start My number one positive, I'm probably going to give to Cody Bellinger. I was actually really impressed with Cody Bellinger yesterday. Made a really nice assist in center field. Um, Much needed and definitely different than what I'm used to in center field for a while. No disrespect to Aaron Judge. He is a right fielder primarily for me. I know that his best power seasons have come with him in center, but he's not been great at going for like shallow fly balls and center field. He kind of pulls up on them a little bit. So I'm just quite happy to see Bellinger really get there and then throw a beautiful assist there. So happy with that. Nice at bat too. His first at bat was pretty good. So I'm going to give him as my first positive. Second positive, Spencer Jones. We're going to break down his swing in a minute. He's my second positive. Third positive for me, Peraza. Peraza, baby. Obviously, he's batting 1,000 in his two at bats. Drew a nice walk, single, fine, and a couple of flashy plays at third too. So I'm liking Peraza. Those are my three positives so far. Rob, what's your three positives?
I'm going. Obviously, I do like what Bellinger did, but I expect that out of him. He's a very good. But it was good to see that. I actually have Spencer Jones at the top of my list because he's going with a new swing, and it looks very similar to Judge's. If you kind of put that on a mirror, you wouldn't be able to tell. I think he went to Judge's hitting coach this past offseason, Teacher
He
Man, and
has.
he was working on that swing. So it looks very similar to Judge's, and that power is real, everybody. There's no doubt about that. It's just good to see that, but obviously we need to see it in more of a sample size because we can't forget last year he was doing this as well very early on in the spring. But so far, a great start. I wouldn't go that far, Donnie. What else are we going to look at for positives? I like what I saw from Brent Hedrick, actually. 3 strikeouts from the left side of the mound the other day. That was really nice because we're going to need a second lefty in that bullpen. So guys like him and Zastrinski and Tyler Matzek are going to be competing with Tim Hill. So I really liked what I saw from Hedrick because we just need another lefty out there. And 3 Ks, that can't go unlooked at. So I liked what I saw there. And I'm going to go with Peraza. I think Peraza really looked good in that first game, and I really hope that he takes over and runs away with that third base race. I'm pulling for him. It's nothing against Cabrera. I just think Peraza is the guy that you probably want as an everyday third baseman. So far, so good from him. Those are my 3 positives.
And I would also give a shout out to Will Warren. His changeup definitely looks much improved. That might be something that they're going to really treble down on this year in order to get something out of Will Warren. I'm not the highest on him, but others are. And if he can utilize that changeup, maybe you're going to get something out of him. What are your thoughts on Will Warren so far, man?
He looked really good, and that was more of the guy that I was expecting to see last year. I don't know what the case was with him last season. He did not look great in the spring. He was okay, but then when his minor league season started, he was getting tagged left and right. When he got called up, he was getting tagged left and right. Just was not a good year for him. I kept saying that maybe he needs to limit his pitch mix and use his best pitches more. And it seems like that changeup is his go-to pitch right now. So he was always a guy that had like a 6-7 pitch mix, and I always thought that was too much, especially for a guy at the major league level. You got to find out what works the best. And I think that Warren with that changeup and that good fastball of his, if he can limit that to maybe a good 3 or 4 pitches, he could be a really good weapon as a Michael King type or even as a spot starter if need be. It's just one start, but certainly a good sign after what we saw from him last year, which was brutal. Really liked it. That changeup was moving. It was getting swings and misses, and we need that from him. So very, very happy with Will Warren.
Yeah, Donnie Clark also says Hendrick looks really good. He's definitely a big fan here. The Matt Blake factory at its best. Yeah, we're gonna have to start calling it the Matt factory, I think, and because the dude we do produce some arms out of that Matt Blake factory. So I'm looking forward to seeing who else takes off in spring. Let's talk about some of the negatives. I would say number one has to be Ben Rice. He looked dreadful behind the dish. They ran like mad in the first 2 innings off of him. Anytime anyone got on base, they were running. So he looks like a liability back there. And then, of course, the pass ball that scored a runner. Now, I don't know whether they officially called that a pass ball, but for me, it was a pass ball, and it was on Ben Rice rather than Rodon. I thought Rodon looked bad too, so he'd probably be like second or third negative. But it's his first start. I mean, I'm not saying this is like an indicator of what's happening. Just going by what I saw, he looked kind of off. But starters, especially in their first start, a lot of it is just about health and trying out other stuff that is not necessarily an indicator of where he is. But he didn't look great either. So I'll say that. So him and Ben Rice for me. And another one who's at the moment penciled in as our DH, Tom Smith. Not impressed. Didn't like his swing, and certainly didn't like him at first base. So I don't want to see him anywhere near first base, and I don't want to see him swinging too much either. Not loving Tom Smith. We got to find some better options, man. I mean, this is like poverty stuff as a backup to Stan. Poverty. Rob, what was your thoughts on your three negatives?
I mean, it's hard to find three different ones. I mean, I had it the same exact way as you did. I had Dominic Smith on the top of my list. I just, between giving him number 22, that's almost a telltale sign that they think the guy's going to make the team, which I certainly hope he doesn't. But he's wearing 22. He didn't look good at the plate. He didn't look good defensively. It is game one, so maybe he does find a power swing. But I get such a Willie Calhoun feeling from him that I feel like the nickname's coming at some point from Aaron Boone. Big Stick Nick or Dominic, I don't know what he's going to call him, but he'll find something. And yeah, I didn't like it. Ben Rice at game one, but you would hope that he would come out.
That makes me sick.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I saw that number on the lineups. I was like, there's no way they gave him 22. But yeah, he's number 22. And then Ben Rice did not look good at all. And Rodon as well. Again, one start. You hope that as time goes on, they get better. But we kind of need Ben Rice to take that backup job right now. I know two lefties is difficult, but we really don't have another option for backup catcher. I like Escara, but I mean, you go with him for the defense, and if you want to go defense, Alex Jackson is also a choice, but I think they need Ben Rice's bat, but right now he should be the backup DH or if anything, backup first baseman. I don't know if it's going to work out behind the plate. That was always a question. It was his arm. He gave up a stolen base and all that stuff. So a lot to work on.
Give him two.
Yeah, a lot to work on for him behind the dish.
Yeah, that's it. He is. I can't. I mean, I'm glad they gave him I'm glad they gave him a chance out there. I wanted to see what was there as possible as a backup catcher. No, he's not a backup catcher. There's a reason why they're trying him out at first base. Now, what I will say is his first time behind the dish in a long time, probably. So maybe he was a little rusty. Maybe he was a little nervous. But just going by what I see, doesn't look like he's got much of an arm back there. And he doesn't look like a particularly good receiver of the ball either. So I don't really see anything as a backup catcher. I think he's a DH and backup first baseman at this stage. But I certainly have him higher on my list of options than Tom Smith. You're right. I see Willie Calhoun vibes right there, bro. But again, it's only just the first couple of days. But how are they giving him number 22? I mean, that's like, come on, you got to do better than that, guys. Come on, give him 90 fucking 3 or something. I don't care. Just don't give him 22. What the fuck are you doing? Anyway, let's talk a bit about old Spencer. I want to talk about his swing because I'm excited about that swing of his. So I'm gonna get those videos up. But in the meantime, guys, hit the like button. Hit the like button if you like your content, and hit the share and hit the sub button if you haven't already done so. Would really appreciate that. As we move forward, we're trying to climb up to 1.1K, which would be a next milestone. We're not far away. We're only 20 away. So come on, guys. Come on. Let's up this up. Let's amp this up a little bit, and let's go. So let's do this now. Right. Here we go. This is have you got the screen in front of you, my man?
Sure do.
All righty.
Games were all of a sudden going 4.5
Look at that swing. Now, this was the one that just went foul. Now, obviously, look at that stance for a minute there. His ass is out a little bit. Rob, are you comfortable with that ass being so far out?
Not in this instance, no. I mean, he's obviously got some things to work on.
Yeah.
It's more of like a. I mean, if we're going to compare it to Judge's, it's more of like he's standing more upright than Judge does, and I think he's just trying to get closer to the plate. Maybe by him doing that, getting himself closer to the plate would cut down on the swings and misses a little bit. Maybe he was standing too far, but it kind of does look like a bit awkward. But hey, if it gets him that power swing, then I don't think we're gonna have too many complaints.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with his open stance. It looks like he's got better coverage of the plate right now. I would just slightly prefer, it's hilarious, but I prefer that ass to be slightly more in than pointing out like that. But look at the coverage of the bang. Look at that right down the middle. And he absolutely demolished that. That was really nice because that was right middle in. And he just freaking demolished that. Beautiful coverage. I like how he go around on that. And bang!
From the left side of the plate with pull side power, that's a dream come true in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
And
to me, the mechanics look better. It's just maybe get that stance just a little bit more in a little. But in general, 110 mile an hour off the bat is a great sign.
Oh, yeah.
And this was his home run. Let's have a look at this.
left field.
This was great. I love this.
Kind of guy that I feel like Jones can play like it. Multiple positions, very good defensively, and that lefty swing, I feel like he's more of a Bellinger type than he is a Judge type. Just because they are both tall and powerful doesn't mean that they're going to be the same type of hitter. I feel like Bellinger's a better comp for Jones than Judge was.
I agree. Once again, great coverage of the plate right there, as you can see. And that actually looks like a slightly more comfortable stance. I don't know if I'm just going nuts, but it looks like it was a little bit more comfortable. And I love how because that pitch was going in a little, and he got around it and boom! Definitely one of my highlights of spring. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a nice swing. It's definitely, if it gets him to cut down that strikeout rate, even like a good 6, 7, 8%. You know, I'm not asking for too much because it was way up. I think it was like 36 last year, and it was a good 10% up from the year before. So if that helps him cut down on those strikeouts, because let's not forget, last spring he swung and missed at like one pitch, and that did not translate into his season in Double-A because he was striking out like crazy. Having said that, I've said this several times, even though strikeouts aren't looked at the same way today that they were back in the day, it is a reason why his stock has dropped a little bit in terms of prospect rankings, because if you strike out a lot in Double-A, you're going to get eaten alive in the majors. So that's something he still has to improve on that. While there are strikeout guys that can still be very good players, look at Judge, he strikes out a ton. Look at Stanton. Look at Kyle Schwarber. He bats leadoff for Philly. You have to be able to improve at the lower levels to make sure that when you get to this stage, you can get the job done. And if this stance helps him cut down that strikeout rate, I'm all for it. If this is the guy that teaches Aaron Judge, then hopefully it can work for Spencer Jones, because the Yankees need him, because he's a guy that should be ready by next year, late this year, the earliest, but they're going to need him. If they're not going to be spending money, and I don't want to get into that whole spiel, but the Yankees are very high on him for obvious reasons. He's got all the tools. All he needs to do is cut that strikeout rate, and you've got yourself a really good potential, at least, of a prospect. And the power, the speed, the defense, he's a 5-tool kind of guy. Just got to drop that strikeout rate.
I'm to be honest, of all the prospects, I'm highest on him, and I've believed that for a while. I love that upside. he had a great spring last year. So again, spring isn't necessarily the greatest indicator because he had such a great spring and then struggled uh, in the minors to an extent because of the strikeout issue that went. I think he struck out like 200 times, uh, uh, and obviously that's not workable. But I like that he has worked really hard on improving the mechanics of his swing. And I think he's got better plate coverage right now. I don't know if you agree with that. It looks like that swing will help his plate coverage, and I think that I think he's just getting used to it. So I'm excited to see what happens the rest of the way. But we are going to be chronicling that because I think he's one of the guys to pay attention to, as well as obviously third base and maybe like another lefty out of the pen. Potentially looking at DH options while Stanton's gonna rest and maybe a backup catcher. There's not really much to pay attention to in spring other than those little things. But I think Spencer Jones is one of them. He's one of the guys to pay attention to. Another guy to pay attention to, I would say, is George Lombard. Pretty decent. Pretty decent. I think he looks really athletic. I think he made one play, obviously, that flew past Dom Smith, but I put that mostly on Dom Smith. I think a good first baseman actually at least is able to bring that ball down at minimum because he did really well to get there. If you can remember that play that I'm referring to, I think he did really nice backhand, spun, bang, threw made a beautiful play, but it's maybe just a little bit too strong a throw, but shows he's got good arm, good athleticism. You can tell he's got speed. You can tell he's got a decent swing too. I think there's a lot to be excited about with George Lombard, but we want to see some results before we can really judge. But I think he's a prospect to pay attention to, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I know the Yankees really like him. They're very high on him. This is like a guy that many thought was going to go back to college, and when he fell to the Yankees in the draft, they took him very fast. And he's only like 19 years old, I think, so there's still plenty of room to grow. Last year, he only played 110 games, but the numbers were kind of up and down. He dealt with some injuries here and there, but just hit 231, but did have a 338 on base, which is nice. Now, the slugging was only 334, so not a ton of power there. But this is a guy that the Yankees are very, very high on. He's going to steal a lot of bases, too. He had 39 last year.
Tell he's fast.
And his sprint speed today to first base was insane. This is a guy that we got to be patient with because he's only played like A ball. And I think eventually we're going to see him make that climb to Double-A. I'm happy for him to get this chances in spring training because he's still very, very young. But this is a guy that you can see potentially playing third base in the next like 3 years or so. Still a ways to go. But yeah. They're going to have to find a place for him and Arias as well. But I think Lombard's got the kind of defensive ability to go and play third base. But I'm very happy to see him get out there, and I know the Yankees are very, very high on him.
Yes, and let's say hello to Jake Boss in the chat. Power to both fields. Salute. Jake Boss, is that your beard? Love it, brother. Stevie B, what up, Stevie B? Well, it's good to see you in the chat. I like what I see from Jones. Just need some more time. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think he's a 2026. Let's have a really good minor league year. Maybe he's a potential September call up if he has a crazy good year and gets that OPS into the 830, maybe 840, something like that, and then you go right. Let's get him called up ASAP. But I think you're probably looking at 2026 for him, where there's going to be a spot open for him. So let's hope that continues to be the case because he's by far my favorite prospect. Very excited about him. Who else kind of were you interested in? Obviously, Vargas hit a home run. He had a nice swing there today. What do you think about him?
I think he's a guy that will probably end up getting lost in the shuffle in terms of the infield prospects. There's so many of them. obviously Lombard, Arias. They have Volpe here. They have a couple of guys battling for third base. So yeah. At this point, you might get one, Jake. Keep growing the beard out. But I don't know where they see Vargas because he's an exciting player, and we saw that power today. It was nice to see. I feel like at some point he's going to be used as trade bait because at some point you have to trade somebody from this infield. We have too many guys in the minors that are all around like the same age range and all at the same level. So he's been in the system for quite some time, though. I can tell you that much. It's been a little. He's been here for a little while. I think he's like 22 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So we probably could see him at the higher level sooner than guys like Lombard and Arias. But we've seen a lot of him over the last few years, and he's another one of those infield guys that are exciting. You just don't know where he fits into this long-term planning for the Yankees. So again, I'm glad he's just like Lombard. I'm glad he's getting at bats because the more he can develop, the better chance the Yankees could either use him at some point or potentially yet as a trade bait.
So you don't have him having any chance of making the team?
No. I think for this year they're going to go with guys like Peraza, Cabrera. Vivas would probably get the shot before him. They really like that Shumaki guy they picked off waivers from the White Sox, I believe. A guy that can play all over the place. So I feel like he's, even at this stage, he's still lost in the shuffle. Plus, he has to play at a bit of a higher level. But I like him. I just don't think that the Yankees have a spot for him.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. He didn't really have much of a campaign in the minors to pay attention to. But I did like that swing of his. And that was a nice shot that he hit today. But yeah, I think you're right. He's getting lost in the shuffle a little bit. I wonder when we're going to see guys like Vivas, etc.
I mean, considering we haven't seen him just yet, we haven't even seen LeMahieu yet. So I would think hopefully soon. I want to see him get as many at-bats as well. It'll be interesting to see how they find time for all these guys that are battling out for these positions, because I hope that Vivas doesn't get lost in the shuffle the way that a guy like Vargas might. Vivas is trade, but Vivas has that big lefty swing as well that really translates to the stadium. I love his swing. I really do like Vivas. I liked him a lot when we got him. I thought it was a good trade at the time. Obviously, things happened with Victor Gonzalez, but I feel like Vivas is a guy that they even put him at third in that prospect showcase last year, and he's more of a second baseman. So that feels like the Yankees view him as a third baseman. So here's an opportunity for him to really wow some people in a wide open position, because I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite right now for third base. So as much as I like Peraza, and I hope that he does take it, there's also a big part of me that's rooting for Vivas to run away with it, because I feel like having another lefty with the big swing that can put a few over that wall, and he's got speed, that can really help out the Yankees.
Yeah, let's talk a little about the Arias. Last year, 13 homers, 74 ribbies, 728 OPS, on base around 33% of the time, and that was in the minors last year. He looked decent today. What do you think?
Just again, it goes to the earlier point about just we have so many infielders, right? Like I made a mistake. Vargas did play Double-A last year, so he is already at that level that Lombard and Arias are not yet. You got Vargas, you got Vivas, you got the guys that are already at the major league level, and now you got Lombard, and here's Arias, and we're probably going to pick up a shortstop in next year's international class as well. So the Yankees just keep adding these infielders. They have so many of them, but I really like Arias. Arias is a guy that could play shortstop, honestly. He's got that kind of arm that he could take the job if he does develop and Anthony Volpe doesn't get better with the bat. The Yankees could have a conversation there about potentially moving him. That might be the only situation where they move Volpe from shortstop and maybe to like a position at second, because Arias' arm is too good for second. He might be a third base option, and Lombard could be a second base option. I really like Arias, plus he's a switch hitter, and that's always a good sign. That's always a good thing. He's got great speed, and
he's over 20, man. I mean,
yeah.
3 or 4 years.
Right. Him and Lombard are like the same. Like I think Lombard's a year younger, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still plenty of time, way too long before we see these guys get close.
Who do you think's further along? I would say maybe Lombard personally, but I'm not sure.
I think because they both dealt with some injuries last year. I think they're kind of. I would say probably Lombard. I think the Yankees have a higher grade on Lombard actually.
I agree with that. Now, CBB likes Lombard better than short than Volpe. One thing that Lombard needs to work on is his footwork. There's one thing that I will give Volpe credit for. I'm not the biggest Volpe fan, right? But he's got phenomenal footwork, and that allows him to get to basically everything. He's not got a great arm, but the footwork is so good that it's kind of made up for his bad arm. So that's one thing that Lombard's going to work on. I think Lombard actually complemented Volpe's footwork, from what I understand. He was quite amazed by how good Volpe's footwork is. So let's get him working with Volpe in camp and get that footwork going, because I think he's got a better arm than Volpe, and he's even faster, which is saying something. So I want to see how that develops over the next couple of years. I mean, remember, he's only 19, so I think you're probably looking at 2027, 2028.
Yeah, him and Arias are probably the same year. I think Arias probably, in my opinion, Arias is further than Lombard. I just think the Yankees have a higher grade on Lombard. Like if they were one of them would be untouchable, they'd probably view Lombard as the untouchable guy. But I don't see any reason why they would trade Arias. They're both really good prospects. Like they're both like right there at the top of their list. So, but you're looking at 27, the earliest. And that might still be too early because that's still 2 years away, and they'll be 21 and 23 years old. So it still might be too early for them.
Donnie has Volpe having a 30-30 season this year. Bro, if he does, I would be amazed. I would be blown away. I've not seen anything remotely close to 30 home run potential with Volpe yet, but you never know. Maybe he's going to surprise us. Maybe he's going to have a breakout year. I'll be interested to see how that develops. Jake says he definitely needs to take a step forward. He has to take a step forward. This is his year for me. Now, I know that the Yankees love him, so I still don't think the Yankees would move on from him even if he has a bad year this year, but he's one of the guys that seriously needs to have a big year to take that jump that we're kind of expecting him to make. So that's something to pay attention to. Does Volpe have any pressure on him at all, or are you pretty?
I don't think so right now. No. If we get to like 2027 spring training and Volpe's still below league average offensively but playing really well defensively, then you might see some pressure on him then. But right now, I don't see any reason to move him. You know, you can do a lot. I know last year his bat was not, even though he was technically an improvement from the year before, you kind of want to see him mix the two seasons a little bit. Because his first year he had a lot of power, or a lot more power, I should say. But last year he sacrificed that for the average, but the power dipped, and it seemed like his at-bats weren't as good. If he can just, and I've been saying this since even last year, the Yankees really don't need him to be like a Bobby Witt. Even that would be fantastic, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to compare him to Bobby Witt Jr. That's an unfair comparison. Bobby Witt Jr. is up here, and Volpe's like down here, let's be honest. If he can just be a league average hitter with the plus glove, that's perfectly fine, especially for the bottom of the order. And
You're right. You're right about that. Now let's talk shop. Let's talk a little third base. For me, it should be Peraza. I think the two of us are in alignment on that. I don't think there's any question about it. And if you even want to give him a platoon situation, I could see that working. Peraza against lefties, in the minors last year against lefties, he had an 888 OPS with a 500 slug, on base percentage just under 400, 375, and 6 homers, 11 RBIs, and just 80 at bats. That's great. That's almost a 900 OPS against lefties in the minors last year, Peraza. So if you want to do the platoon situation, the Yankees really struggled against lefties last year. So give Peraza the job against lefties. So would you in that case would you want Ozzy Cabrera to be the guy against righties? What do you think?
I think that's the route they're going to go platoon. I think it's going to end up being a platoon situation. I fear that they're going to give that lefty spot to DJ, but it should be Peraza. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that Peraza has to sit against righties because Cabrera is a guy that I've been saying this since 2023. They should use his versatility to their advantage. Just because he can play third doesn't mean he has to always play third. This is a guy that can give Goldschmidt a day off. This is a guy that can give Judge a day off in the outfield and you can DH Judge. This is a guy that can DH himself. You can give Volpe a day off and play Cabrera at shortstop if need be, or play Peraza at short and Cabrera at third. So you can get both of them into the lineup. So I think if they're going to go platoon, that's the best way to do it, is to use the both of them, because Cabrera can play all over the diamond. Any position besides center and catcher, he has and can play it. He may not be great at every single position, but it's hard to find a super utility guy like that that's also a pretty good hitter from the left side of the plate. He's dreadful against lefties. He's dreadful against lefties and batting from the right side, but he's really good against righties and batting from the left side of the plate.
So there you go. There's your platoon then.
Exactly. I think that's the way to go. If they're dead set on a platoon, unless Peraza just runs away with it, which I think he can, that's the best route to go, because you cannot tell me there's a world where DJ LeMahieu is a better bat than Peraza right now. There might be similar defensively because DJ can still play a good third, but Peraza's faster. Peraza's got a better arm. He's got a better bat. There's more upside with the 23-year-old than the 36-year-old. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. If you're going to go platoon, Peraza and Cabrera has to be the way they go. And you got to get Peraza as many at-bats as possible because, like I just said, you can find a way to get Cabrera in the lineup as well, whether that's DHing first, etc. So that's the way they have to go. They have to use DJ as a bench guy that can play all over the infield in an emergency, but they cannot give DJ regular at-bats.
Right. So, yeah, let's break down Oswaldo Cabrera's platoon splits. I'm just going to share that screen because it does give you an idea of where he is. Okay, so against righties, 8 homers, 29 RBIs. That's not too bad. And 200 plate appearances, not amazing, but solid enough. 268 batting average, we like. 400 slug, not awful. OPS 729, not too bad. So split relative OPS plus 105. That's not too bad. We can live with that. What we can't live with is him against lefties. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. 0 home runs in 84 plate appearances is 7 ribs, 190 batting average, 229 on base percentage, 200 slug. I mean, these are like fucking DJ numbers. OPS of 400, OPS plus of 34. Please God, if I see him facing lefties this year, I'm gonna lose my frickin' mind. Rob.
Yeah, Cabrera, I said it last year. Remember when he got up to that hot start, I said, do not bat him from the right side ever again. I know being a switch hitter is a good thing, but he was so much better and so much more comfortable from the left side that you have to keep him there. It just makes so much more sense to play him against right-handed pitching and find a position for him. That's the guy you got to go with in a platoon. It's him and Peraza. It can't be the other guy. It just can't. If you're gonna make that claim that you call guys up and use your players, this is your chance to do it. Stop relying on DJ. I like Cabrera. I just don't like him as an everyday player. And I've said that. I've been pretty steady with that stance. I really do like him.
He's not an everyday player. I mean, for me, it's official. I don't think there's even a question about it. I think you have to be deluded if you think he's an everyday player. Look at his wins above replacement. 1. There's not much going on there. Even his numbers are pretty. OPS plus of 87.
Right.
career 79. I mean, that's both below average. OPS 660, career 640, below average. On base percentage, below average. Slug, below average. I mean, these are below average numbers, really, if you're taking a hard look at it. But he can flash a decent glove at third. I like his glove at third. I like Peraza, man. I want Peraza to get his opportunities, and I want the Yankees to go and find a better option to platoon with him at third base against righties, and then make Oswaldo Cabrera kind of your super utility guy, and DFA DJ LeMahieu. That's like, for me, that's what I would do. And another option that you could do is, obviously, while I think Stan's going to miss the first month of the year. Definitely the first 2-3 weeks. So if we could pick up somebody during this month that can, play third and play DH, that would be even better as well. But I want Peraza to get as much opportunity as possible, because the Yankees have treated him like garbage. We know this. It's not a question anymore. And I feel really bad for that guy, because I think that he was misled going into that spring training battle with Volpe. I think that he thought that he had the shortstop job. And they kind of kicked him to the curb, and they never looked at him again after it. So, especially considering he looked pretty damn good the year prior. He got the playoff start, and he made some great plays in the playoffs. But the Yankees quickly moved off of him, and it's really unfortunate. What's Stevie B got to say here? Peraza never got a real shot. Facts, Donald. Yeah, he never did, man. But Donnie loves Volpe. Volpe over Peraza at shortstop. I mean, that's what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. But I'm not necessarily sure that it's earned, because I think Peraza is a better shortstop than Volpe. But
at the same time, they should have never have done to Peraza what they did. Like that, just because he didn't win the job out of spring doesn't mean they couldn't have used him. Again, I said this the other day on the morning show. Look what they did in 2023 when they kept saying, "You're crazy if you don't think Josh Donaldson is still a good player." I guess we're all crazy then, because we all said it. This guy cannot be the third baseman. Remember that? That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were all right. They should have given Peraza a chance to play every day. And they didn't. Last year, they had multiple chances. They were searching for a third baseman all year. They didn't do it. They called him up for 4 games. He hit a home run. They sent him down. We never saw him again. So what they did to him is, and I don't want to keep repeating myself from the morning show, but what they did to him was what you don't do to a top prospect. So Peraza did nothing wrong. I know he got hurt last year, but he did nothing wrong. The Yankees did him wrong. This is a chance for him to prove them wrong and for them to do right by him by giving him a chance, because they have no other options now. He's out of options. And it's very rare that a 23-year-old is out of options this quickly. This is the chance for them.
The Yankees did that to him.
Exactly. The Yankees did it. And this is all the Yankees' fault. He did nothing wrong. And I've not found a single Yankee fan. I've talked to a lot of different people, between whether it's you or guys in our chat or guys on other channels, and not a single one of us can figure out what the hell he did wrong to the New York Yankees to make them treat him that way. Nobody can figure it out, because again, he did nothing but play where they told him. That you want to put him at second, he played second. You want to put him at third, he played third. You want him to bat in the top of the bottom of the order, he did it. He didn't care where he was playing. He was just playing, and he performed well every time he was out there. Even when he was dealing with injuries, there were some bright spots. So he did nothing wrong, and not a single person I've spoken to can figure out why the Yankees are doing this to him, after being very high on him to a point where they held him out of trades for a guy like Luis Castillo, for guys like Brian Reynolds. They didn't want to trade him for a Pablo Lopez, and yet this is how they treat that guy? It doesn't make sense. So I really do hope he gets it. I really do hope he's a guy that plays every single day. By the way, get him in the lab with Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod's in spring camp. Have him working with A-Rod every single day, and you're going to get a hell of a player.
Better yet, could A-Rod play third base for us?
Can he get him to, what, 700 and then retire again?
Exactly. I'm telling you, A-Rod right now is better than DJ LeMahieu, and it's not even a question. I guarantee if A-Rod had the amount of at-bats that DJ had last year, A-Rod would have cleared 700 home runs easily. Clearly, easily.
Probably would have hit at least 215, right? What did DJ hit, 200?
Easy. What? He'd have to beat a minus like 2 WAR. I think he could do that. On a bad day, he could do that. So let's please end this DJ experience. It's an experience that I don't want to have to relive anymore. But what the Yankees have done is seismic. And let's get into the big discussion before we close out the show. The Beards are back in town. And to echo what we said on the morning show, I think Williams had a big part to play in it, and it's now official. Because according to the Athletic, our man Williams, Devin Williams, went to Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman to discuss the team rule. That's big, man. Williams has some balls, bro. He's got some balls to do that in his first week as a Yankee to come in there. But I'm glad he did. And Steinbrenner acknowledged that the policy could become an obstacle with future player acquisitions among a generation which feels that Beards are part of their character. So to quote Hal Steinbrenner, if I ever found out that a player that we wanted to acquire to make us better, to get us a championship, did not want to be here or would not come here because of this policy, that would be very, very concerning. And I'm pretty convinced that's a real concern, he said, hence why he made that move. I think it's a move that was a long time coming. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say a beard is part of my character or defines who I am, but some people feel that way. But I will say that you should never be in a situation where you go into a place of business and they're asking you to completely shave. I mean, that's silly. It's arbitrary. And it was it was arbitrary. Let's face it. It's a little bit unnecessary. There's nothing wrong with a well-groomed beard at all. And I know that there's going to be old school fans that are upset by this. But for me, I'm just going to say this. The only thing that upsets the Yankee mystique and aura is nothing to do with beards, mustaches, or facial hair. It's about what you do on the field. It's about winning championships. It's about acquiring the best talent available. That's what helps your aura and mystique. To do well in October, right? To stop the excuses. To stop accepting mediocrity, double and trebling down on mediocrity. That upsets your mystique and aura far more than a bit of facial hair on your face. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was an arbitrary thing. Back in the 70s, I understand. The 70s is different than 2025. The world is completely different between the 1970s and 2025. Do you know what I'm saying? And back then, a mustache was kind of like the business attire. That's kind of what was in at the time and made you look smart. Beards, that was kind of like hippie Woodstock kind of shit, and I think that's what they viewed it as back in the day. But now it's kind of the opposite. And I would say most men in America have beards. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, it was arbitrary. Something had to change. I certainly don't want big mofoing like crazy beards, but just keep it trim, bit of stubble. There's nothing wrong with that shit. Let's rock on. Maybe a goatee could be fun. Rob.
You know, we had this conversation like a couple of weeks ago because when we saw Devin Williams shaved, we were talking about it. And even before that, we had this conversation on the show. We were talking about the facial hair policy and how you can just amend it to a certain way. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't say, okay, just do whatever you want, but they said the hair policy is still in place. You can only have it a certain length. And it's just a well-maintained beard. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Would my beard be too long? Would yours be considered well-maintained? I don't know how the Yankees view it. It could be a situation where maybe CC's, if you look at what CC's grokking these days, that's probably considered well-maintained. I'm sure that's fine. So I think that gives them an idea of what they have in mind, what they would like a player to do. But I think Devin Williams was the guy that really set this in motion. And I said this yesterday in the morning. I said he really, the world saw him without a beard and bullied the Yankees into changing this policy. And the fact that he said he would have to consider other options because of the policy, I'm glad they changed it. Because like Hal said, if it prevents us from getting a player, that's a pretty stupid thing to have in place if it means you can't get a guy like Vladdy. Let's say next year, Vlad Guerrero Jr. wants to be a Yankee, but that was in place. He goes, well, I don't want to shave, so I'm going to go sign with the Mets, or I'm going to go sign with Boston. And if they ask him, would you have signed with the Yankees? Yeah, but I don't want to shave. Could you imagine how that would look? I'm wondering how many players have said no to the Yankees because they don't want to shave. Like Luis Castillo was one of the big players that I don't want to have to shave my head or shave whatever to become a Yankee. So it's there. There are players that have said it in the past. There are players that are for it. There are some people that are against it. One thing I don't get are why people are mad. Have you seen like the reaction on Twitter is a lot of negativity. Yeah. Like tradition, you can't believe. Tradition's out the window when you haven't, like you said. We haven't won since 2009. So you know what? Fuck tradition. Start building new ones. If this is the year that they win a championship, then guess what? There's your new tradition. Let them grow it even longer next year if that's what it takes. And Aaron Judge said it pretty well. He's not going to do it. He's not going to grow one, but he said he understands why they put it in place because some guys would if it helps us win, then he's all for it. He also said,
this is interesting. Let's touch on Aaron Judge. So obviously he says here, I got drafted by this organization. So the very first day I was here, I've been shaving since 2013. This is what I know. This is what I'm used to. I look around the building, look at old photos of the past legends. They all followed that rule. So I just tried to follow on their path. He says he went on to tell Steinbrenner keeping such rules in place was important to maintain discipline and a standard with the Yankees. Now that it's changed, would you kind of hope that maybe Judge, as the leader of the locker room and captain, maybe goes a little stubble, just to kind of show the new standard? Or do you like the fact that he's very much connected with the past? I don't think there's any wrong answer here.
No, I mean, if you want to look at it from one end, then he wants to hold up Yankee tradition, so that should make him the perfect captain in a lot of people's minds, right? Like, hey, this is a guy that cares about tradition. On the other side, it's his face. He can do whatever the hell he wants with it. So if he wants to grow a little stubble, he can. If he wants to have a goatee, he can. If he wants to stay clean, what I said yesterday, I don't think he's going to do it because every offseason when you see him, he's clean shaven. Once players get to the offseason, Austin Wells has got a full beard, and everybody had full beards. I think Heel had one growing during the offseason, and they have to shave it. But Aaron Judge never did, so he might just be a guy that just thinks he looks better clean shaven. Because I don't think I've only seen like a few pictures of him, like even in his college days where he had a little stubble. That might have just been how he always was. I don't know. I'm not going to get in. I don't know what's going on in his head, but I think this whole change, it's because you shouldn't be able to control what a person does with their face. You know, like if I want to have a little facial hair, I should be able to, and I get it. But Hal Steinbrenner did bring up a good point. He said, our vice president has a beard. So if that's not, whether you like the guy or not, we're not getting into politics. I'm just saying your vice president has a beard.
Right,
so
exactly.
If that's not a considered,
Hal Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
In fact, I do want to touch on that. I thought I mean, I'm not going to talk about what he said about. Well, I will towards the end, but
I know what you're talking about.
yeah. But what he talked about in terms of the beard, that was the most forthright and open I've ever seen Hal Steinbrenner, and it was very, very, very welcome as a fan because he broke it down very, very well. He's like, listen, if our vice president and members of Congress have beards, then I'm sorry, this was a little unnecessary.
Here you go.
And I like what Judge says here. If that little rule is going to stop you from coming here, then you shouldn't be here on the facial hair poll. I mean, I salute to Aaron Judge there. He's right about that too, to be honest. But
yeah,
I like what Hal Steinbrenner said, man. Ultimately, the final decision rests with me, and after great conversation, we'll be amending our expectations. I think that's good. I think it's interesting. I would love to know what the thoughts are of guys like Johnny Damon, who has like a huge like lion's mane.
He actually put a response to it out today. I think a video.
What did he say?
I think he said he was in favor of keeping the tradition alive, out of respect for the likes of DiMaggio and Jeter and all those guys. I think Damon himself said that he was kind of against it, but that's just one guy, because Derek Jeter posted a picture of himself with a beard, an AI picture, of course, and he said policy change. So if Captain is in favor of it, then I don't want to hear anybody else's opinion, really. As far as I'm concerned, if Derek Jeter doesn't have a problem with it, then I don't care what Lou on the corner in Yonkers has to think. No offense to the Lou in our chat. I'm saying you in our chat, Lou. I don't know if you're here or not tonight, but I'm saying there's a lot of people on Twitter that are like, you got to hold up the traditions. Well, if Derek Jeter is like, hey, this is a good thing, that's enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't believe that we're even discussing beards of all things. Like, who cares? Like, the only thing for me that defines your mystique and aura is not what you wear in your frickin' face. It's how you do on the frickin' field. And the Yankees need to do better in that regard. Hey, good to see Regil hop in the chat. Salute, Regil. And good to see you in the chat too. Now, before we sign off, Hal Steinbrenner did have a couple of comments. He said that there's no direct correlation between having a high payroll and winning the World Series. But he didn't necessarily say that he's holding up firm and fast to the 301. But he said that he made a little bit of an amendment due to injuries. But I didn't get that answer necessarily. Been a little bit, well, I think he's cheap. I do. I think he's fucking cheap. But I don't want to be negative in this show because we've got spring and I like the beard policy, and it looks like the Yankees are finally listening to their fans on something. I would say that the majority of the fans are happy about this, Rob, the policy. I think they are. There's obviously going to be the old school folks that are upset and angry, but find something else to be angry about, i.e. Third base and not really wanting to spend too much. I'd be angry about that.
Right.
I'm not going to be angry about what you wear in your face. Like, I could care less. Honestly, I couldn't care less.
No, and Raziel, congratulations on the new job. Look, whether you support us in the comments after the show or during the show, it doesn't matter to us whether you're here live or afterwards. We appreciate the support. So best of luck at your new job. What's up, Alex? Good to see Alex in the chat.
Alex in the chat. Salute.
Nobody, Hammer Dance Magician. Nice, that's his new job. There should be no reason people are against this. It's not your face. That's what I never understood. It's like they're not spending my money, and Aaron Judge is not wearing my face. So if Aaron Judge wanted to have a beard, he can have a beard. If Rodon wants to grow a beard, which he should, he's gonna grow a beard. I don't do what they want. I think it's annoying that people are mad about this. They should be mad more that Hal Steinbrenner said, I don't care about the luxury tax, but didn't get us a third baseman. That's what you should be more mad about.
He said that there was not a direct correlation between a high payroll and winning the championship, even though the team that wiped the floor with you in the World Series has a crazy high payroll. So, I mean, I would say that the direct correlation between having the highest payroll is not necessary. I understand that, but again, the Yankees can't have it both ways, right? If you want to keep it pretty tight, if you want to keep that budget pretty tight, then you got to ask more from your general manager, right? Because at the end of the day, then it's up to your general manager to put together a full roster, and we're still a position short. So you can't say that because he also said this in the same interview. He says that we have the great development people. We have great GM, great front office, great manager, great all this. Yet we haven't won since 2009. So if we're that phenomenal, then what's going wrong? Right? So you can't have it both ways. So again, I think the Yankees are very focused on PR, and if you read between the lines, the first thing Hal said was there wasn't a direct correlation between a high payroll. Then the next sentence was like, but still, we know we're the New York Yankees and we know what the fans expect. So he just kind of added that just to make sure we don't completely lose our shit. Because I'm telling you, Hal really wants to keep that budget tight. And if there's one thing that's going to stop a Vlad Guerrero from coming here next year, or a Tucker or anything like that, it's Hal's payroll. It's nothing to do with that fucking hair policy.
And another thing about that is, he said, that does spending more money give you a better chance to win the World Series? And it's if you spend on a position you need. That's why I said on Twitter, I was like, well, yeah, if you up the payroll to get a third baseman, that would increase your chances. You'd feel a lot more of a favorite to win with an Alex Bregman or an Arenado than you would with DJ LeMahieu or Peraza or Cabrera. As much as I like Peraza and Cabrera, you have better chances of winning the World Series with Bregman. That's just a fact. It's nothing against the other players. Bregman is one of the best at his position in baseball today. So, yeah, spending more money does give you a better chance because, case in point, I said this a little while ago, look at the last 10 championship winners. They all are top 10 payroll teams. It's not like teams like the Rays and the Pirates are winning it every year. No, the Dodgers are probably going to repeat. Let's be honest. They're more than likely going to repeat unless a team like the Yankees or even the Mets kind of step up to them and knock them out. But they're almost at $400 million. And if they need to add at the deadline, they're going to add. So they might get to, So, I mean, spending more, if you can spend it, then you should flex your financial muscle. So when he said that, I was like, okay, he's not worried about the luxury tax, and why didn't you add a third baseman?
Right. That's it. That's where it falls apart again. That's where all the narrative always falls apart. And that's why I still think that the Yankees are all about PR rather than anything, because they've done a great job with the PR. Since losing Soto, they've gone all in on the PR, and they've done phenomenal with it. Aaron Boone, feeding frenzy for Aaron Boone is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life. No disrespect to Aaron Boone, but it is a ridiculous thing to say. And then, of course, saying things like it's all hands on deck. We're going to stockpile talent. We're going to keep as all systems go. We don't stop, never surrender. And after he said never surrender, the only thing we've done is sign Paul Goldschmidt for $12 million and then called it good. Left the position short and went home. That's basically all they did. So I don't know, man. I don't buy the PR. I really don't. But anyway, I want to keep it positive because I've obviously had a negative stance in the last couple of weeks. I've gone to task on Hal and the PR in previous episodes. I'm going to keep it optimistic because we're in spring and we got things to look forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing how our prospects continue to develop. Really enjoyed discussing that with you today, Rob. And you guys are going to see the girls tomorrow. on the upper deck. And of course, on Monday, Pinstripe Chronicles will be back like we never left, and we'll be looking forward to breaking down some more springs. So looking forward to seeing you guys there. If you could hit the like and the sub button, I'd really appreciate it. And we really appreciate everyone that checked us out tonight. So Rob, give us your final thoughts, my guy.
Yeah, I'm excited for baseball. Look, there's a lot to be happy about. I know with the lack of a third baseman, it can make us seem like we're overly negative, but I still think this team's going to win a lot of games. I'm right there with Brazil. I think it's going to be another 90-plus win season. Might be more, might be less. I think our pitching is so damn good. It's probably going to carry us on most days, but I'm very excited, man. I know we're only 2 games in. I want to see what happens at third. I want to see if one of these lefties can take a spot in the bullpen. If any moves happen throughout the spring, we still have a chance that maybe they do move a Marcus Stroman and go sign a Jose Iglesias, and there's less of a question mark at third base. So we'll see. There's still a lot of time that things could happen. Maybe they do explore an Arenado trade. So still a lot. We got well over a month to go, basically, till opening day. So a lot can happen between now and March 27th. But let's just enjoy it, because spring training gets very boring after like the first few weeks. So let's try to enjoy this excitement while we have it. And yeah, let's go Yanks. There's still a lot that can happen. I'm excited to watch more baseball, whether it's meaningful or meaningless. It's baseball, guys.
And a shout out to Goldie. That swing that he hit with that RBI double, that was as hard a ball as he hit all year last year.
More of that, Goldie.
So more of that, Goldie. And on that note, see you guys on Monday. Take care, guys. Have a great night.
Go Yanks.